Mm, mm, Are you? Here we go. All right. Someone else is trying to get in. Let me let them in. There you go. All right. So this lesson is just going over the present tense table, and it gives us the information. It's a summary of everything that we've learned, which is the group 1, 2, and 3, and 4 with all 7 different forms. Why is it 7? Simply because in each one of those groups, except for group number 4, you have an active and a passive that are separated. But with the group number 7 form, you have both active and passive together. So each one has a active and a passive, and that's what I want you to remember about these verbs. Okay, so it tells us again what the identifying signs are, for that which is active and that which is passive. And so you're going to have to memorize this, right? You're going to have to memorize it. And it's an action. When it talks about present tense, it's actually literally, according to what's written, is actually happening at that moment from the writer's perspective. That's what they wrote. And at that in particular time, they wanted to convey that message that the action is taking place is actually happening right then and there, which gives us a little bit more intimate detail about what was going on at that time. Group number 2, again, is a forceful action, which is active and passive. And of course, it's recognized by the 2 dots that lets us know that that's group number 2. 1 dot is group number 1. 2 dots, you can see here's 1 dot right here, and here's 1 dot right here. 2 dots for here, right here. And then finally, at group number 3, they consider this 3 dots because if you put 3 dots together, 1, 2, 3, it would end up being all connected. So that way. So those 3 dots let you know that that's a group number 3. And that one's a causative, which is you are causing someone else to do something. Okay. Someone or something else to do something. So that for me, that was a tough one because I was never taught that in English. Like you can be the cause of something versus it just happening, or, you can be the reason behind it, the causation of it. And then, of course, what we've been learning over the last, I think, 2 weeks is about group number 4, which deals with the 7th stem, which is just adding this on. And this is in the present tense. So all we do is just add these 2 letters right here, myth, and then that will let us know that it's present tense. Why is it not one for active and one passive? Because the action is happening on oneself. So the one person who it's addressing is the one who's actively doing the action on oneself. So I'm doing the action, but I'm doing it to myself. So I'm actively doing something and I'm passively receiving the action. And that's what someone does for themselves. So as it says right now, we've at this point have learned all the tenses. You've actually learned every last one of them. You have reached this point now where you have finished learning all the 7 forms. So these are all the 7 forms in the present tense, just like you learned all the 7 forms in the past tense and in the future tense. Okay. So if you look at all those 3 areas, past, present, and future, you literally have 21 tenses that you've learned. Okay. Very, very powerful. Past, present, and future. Okay. So what they're letting us know is at the end of this lesson, there's an exercise that I'm going to send to you because there's really nothing here to do, right? Except for look at the exercise. So this is the lesson I'm going to send to you, right? And I'm going to send over the answers for you so you can go through this just like you normally do with your homework. And so those are the answers. And then finally, the part that I want to go over with you is this helpful tool that I'm going to send over to you. That's going to help you understand these endings. Okay, so for example, this one here is, change this, is and is represented by the wa. The is the hey, okay? And all these are prepositions that are added on to the front of your 3-letter root, okay? So these letters are going to be able to tell you that. So when you look at something, you want to first say, okay, what is the 3-letter root? Is it an aleph and shin and a resh? And then if they got this other one in front of it, a wa, then it means and then whatever this root means. Okay. So these letters here are representative by grammatically by a preposition. And so this is a nice little tool that you can use and look at and memorize for the lamed, 2 or 4, the bet with. Okay. But also too, don't forget the agricultural perspective. Okay. The mem means water. Make sure you write that out, because you'll always remember it that way. You just won't be a letter that means nothing to you, like in English. M means absolutely nothing. Okay. For in Hebrew, the letter mem means water or any type of fluid. And you understand that in the tent, you have to go from one place to the next. And that is where you get your word from. When we talk about a tent, right? A bet, we know that a bet is a tent. And a tent, you can go in or something goes along with it, and it has to do with the family, right? When you think about a lamed, you're talking about the shepherd staff. And what do you do with the shepherd staff? You walk with it and you go to somewhere for someone. Okay. That's why you have the word malak, which is the mem, the lamed, and the kaf, final kaf. So what does that mean? Oh, here's the lock right here, L-A-K. Oh, that means to put the shepherd staff in the hand. Okay, the staff in the hand, and then you put the staff in the hand, and then you walk. Okay, and you're walking, right? And this is called a malak, which is a messenger. So the messenger walks with a shepherd staff in their hand on behalf of someone else. So a malak is not an angel. A malak can actually be a person as well. They're just someone who's delivering a message to someone on behalf of someone else. Okay. They have authority in their hands. So, the shepherd staff has to do with authority. So someone who's walking for someone else has authority. So you can't walk for someone else and deliver a message unless the staff has been put in your hand. What does lock also mean from a agricultural perspective? It also means that Yah says, you got to watch what manner of life you're living. Lock has to do with life. That means, be careful where you walk, because where you're walking is how you live your life. Okay. What is your walk in your life? You know what I mean? So that right there is connected. So don't lose. That's one thing I don't want you guys to lose, is the understanding from the agricultural perspective and how it fits in with the biblical narrative that tells us how these letters work, because they're living. They're not just letters. Okay. Kaf. The kaf we know has this look right here. Okay. But also too, as said, it has a final. So there's 2 different ways it can look. This mem right here, but this is the only one you'll see, but it does have 2. It has a regular one, and then it has a final. Okay. So you'll see that as well. So the kaf is like the palm of the hand. Okay. And when we say from a preposition perspective, it means like. Well, what do you mean like? It means that the palm is open. And then when you have an open palm, you have something in your hand that you look at and you say, oh, this looks like what? It's like this. You use your thumb to crush it and you fool around with it and you twirl it. And that's where you do your reasoning in your hand, right? Because that's what they did in our culture. When they wanted to know what a spice was, wanted to figure it out, they take it, they crush it, they put it in their palm of the hand, and then they crush it and they move around and say, it feels this way, it looks like this. And they take the palm and put it up to their nose and smells like this, or they might stick their finger on it and put it in their tongue from their palm. Like, okay, so it means like. The shin, the next one is a preposition. We don't see too many of these, but they are there. They're not as frequent as the lamed and the bet. These ones right here are really popular. The kaf is popular too, but I think the ones are really, frequent. You get a lot of frequency out of them are these 2 right here. And then I think this one would be, this is mem. The mem is not as busy as this one. So in order, I would say that you would see number 1 would be the lamed, number 2 would be this one. The kaf will be number 3, and then the mem will end up being number 4. This would be number 5, and this would be number 6. okay, from those in terms of a preposition. You see that these are color coded. So you got the green up here, you got the blue right here, right? So it's letting you know, like, it means something different. Okay. So the wa, going back up to that, that's a conjunction. Okay. That is a conjunction grammatically. Okay. Is to add something to something. Okay. And then the hey right here is the definite article, meaning it's telling us that, okay, this is a definite article. It's like an arrow pointing directly to an object saying, this is the book or the book, versus being a book. When you got a hey on front of it, it would be the book. When we read in the Torah, you might see something that says a prophet, and then you have a Christian that comes along and says that Yeshua is the prophet. And then when you read the Hebrew, you'll be like, there's no definite article there. He's not pointing directly to a prophet. It is a prophet. And a prophet means it could be any prophet. Okay, so these are the reasons why we should know if something is a definite article or whether or not is it an indefinite. So definite means I'm pointing directly to that object. If it is an indefinite, that means it could be anything. It could be a book. Here's an example. I got several books on my desk, and I say, hey, bring me that book. And you say, what book? And I say, the book. And you say, well, how would you describe it? If I said, I would have to give it a adjective, I would have to describe it. Either it's red or it's the large one that said something. I'd have to describe it. And if I did that, I'm really putting something on it to make it definite. Like, this is definitely what I'm talking about. Okay. If I just said, go get the book off the desk, you'd be like, okay, which one? If there's several books there, and that would be called an indefinite. And that would be remembered by a book or a fruit or a man. Okay. So there's a is indefinite. Okay. So the brown that you have here those are prepositions. And so you want to, and those have to do with placement. If you notice, all of these have to do with, location, have to do with, spatial type of understanding. It has to do with, movement, right? And so that's what a preposition does. It's supposed to point you to a location, like, for example, to go to somewhere or for something or in or with. And it really isolates where this thing is happening. Okay. So you want to memorize those prepositions. And as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of them. Okay. And that's all. And once you learn those, it's never going to change. There's no additional ones that you have to worry about. Okay. Our little orange one right here goes in and it tells us something about more than one. Okay, so you ask yourself, well, why more than one? Well, if you notice right here, this is the ein, and what does that mean? A yod and a mem.
Plurality.
Yes, it's plurality. Yes, it's more than one, and it has to do with the masculine. So you'll find it there, masculine plural. And then the next one is oath. And so we know that that is feminine plural. And then here is what they would call a defective spelling of this one. These two are equivalent. What do I mean? Well, that's a tav with a dot right here. That dot is just missing that wa that's right here. That's all. So when you see this, it's still oath because it has that O sound by that O right there. Okay. When you see that on the end of a word, do you know that, hey, oath that's plural. And it's also letting us know that words that have a yod on the end of it operates as a plurality sign. Okay. Okay. And so they have several of those. And here again, more than one. What's more than one of? More than one of. Not just more than one of. So let me explain to more than one of. So you have a group of something. For example, they got a Hebrew word that's called bane. And bane is a son. Okay. If I want to make a son could be singular, but if I wanted him to be more than one, then I would call him, so Bane is the first one that you got right there. Okay. If I want to make it plural for masculine plural, then what would it be? Looking up here, which one would I choose for masculine plural?
The men and the young.
Yes is the so it would be a bet and a noon, and then a yod and a mem. Okay, that right there. So this is your singular, and this is your plural. Your plural part is this right here, this ending. So all we did was just take this ending and add it to this root right here called bane, and we make it banim. Okay, so banim means sons. But if I'm talking about the sons of Israel, I wouldn't go banim Israel. I would have to, what they would call, go through the, I know you guys don't remember, but it's called a semikuth. That means that I'm literally going to lay my hands on one thing, okay, and transfer it to something else. So it would go from banim, and I'm talking about sons of, okay, then I would go by name, okay. I wouldn't go banim. I would go Banay, Banay Israel. You never hear it as Banim Israel because it's always the sons of Yisrael. Okay. And anytime you have that, it's always the blank of. So it's always the sons of Yisrael, the Banay Yisrael. And so when you see this attached to anything, it could be a son, it could be horses. So what's the word for horse, if you can remember?
Zeus.
There you go, Dr. Ured. So Zeus is Samak, and then we'll dot right here. And then we got the next one. Okay, so that's Zeus. That's one horse. So all I'm going to do is, if I want it to be more than one, the horses of, like if I'm talking about the horses of David or the horses of the king, all I would do is just add this to this last letter right there and go Suse. And that is the horses of. Okay. If I just want to say horses, I would go Sus. If they were male horses, Susim. If they were female horses, what would I use?
Susa.
Susath. Oh, for our feminine, I'm talking about plural. Yes, good job though. It would be Susa if it was one horse. It'd be Susa. Good job, Lucas. It'd be Susa if it was one. If it was more than one, it'd be Susoth. It could look like that, Susoth, or it could just be the dot with the tav as you have right here. Okay. Or it could be Susi. Okay. And Susi is more than one. Okay. Now, if I wanted to say, and let's just stick with Sus, if I wanted to say my horse, it'd be Sus. And then I will put this on the end. And it would be what? How would you say that? Because this sound right here, this mark and this right here, this right here is called I. So how would I say this down here?
Susai.
Usai. Perfect. The I part is just right here. So they're just adding this to let you know that it's my. Okay. Susai. Okay. And if you had, depending on the context, When you talk about me, you would use that same ending. Okay. But then here we have here one that's, and I think it's just a matter of context. You have my and me, and they're still using this. Okay. So it'll be sus. And then here, Susi, my horse. Okay. Or the horse of me. This one right here on the end, if they add this little one right here, you couldn't put Susni on there, right? So this has to be talking about a noun. Okay, let me make it clear. And this has to be talking about a noun. Okay. So anything that has to do with nouns, their endings are going to be in the yellow. Okay. I want you to remember they're going to be in the yellow. When I first started learning the language, I was confused because I would see, different endings. Like I would see the Kim, the cough on one and the Haim and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, so what is the difference? And then I would see one, and I'll show it to you right quick. I would see the other ones that were down here in the blue that had a ending that was in a tav. I would see the tav endings and I was like, wait a minute, so what is this? And this is you as well, and this is you, and this is you. This is singular, and this is plural, and this is plural. But these here, these tavs right here mean you, and I see it on the end of a word. And I was like, well, what's the difference? What's the difference between you and you up at the top? So blue has a U, and the one in the yellow has a U. Watch this. There's a U there too. Look. I was like, well, this says you or your. So what's the difference? Well, after the grueling, trying to figure it out, I found out that the U right here, these kets or coughs, excuse me, these coughs have to do with the nouns. Okay. And when you're ever talking about a noun, a person, a place, or a thing, your endings are going to start with a cough. If you're talking about you, if you're talking about, and that's second person. Okay. Remember, it's always going to be first person, second person, third person. Okay. If you're talking about third person, it'd be them. Okay. Talking about first person, it's me, and that's common. Okay. Because me could be anybody. It could be a male, it could be a female. The you here is identified in what they call the second person. And so all the second persons are going to, in nouns, are going to be identified with a cough. Okay. It's going to be with this letter right here, a cough, a final cough, if that's the last letter, or if it's not a final and they have a mem on the end, that lets us know it's plural masculine, and this one's feminine plural. Okay. So your nouns are going to have the Kim on it. So let me give you an example. Well, what can we say? When the Most High is talking to someone, he would say, Laka. Laka. What does that mean? What does Laka mean?
To you.
Thank you, Dr. Yared. You got it. It is to you. This is a preposition. This right here is you. Okay. Person, place, or thing. So to you. And because it has this like this, that lets you know that it's masculine. This one right here is feminine. Okay. So you're going to have your masculine, you're going to have your feminine. So let me ask you a question. This one right here, is it masculine or feminine?
Feminine.
Masculine. So this one has to be feminine. Okay. The next one. Is this singular or plural?
Plural.
Plural. Thank you. How do you know it's plural?
The men, yeah, the men.
Yep, the final mem tells you that it's plural. Absolutely. And it's masculine. Okay. So you got the singular feminine, right? You got the masculine singular. And then right here you have the masculine plural. You can see the same thing, and here's the feminine plural. So the masculine will be the mem and the feminine will be the noon. Okay. Then you'll get confused. You're like, okay, well, you told me that. Well, what about, and that is for second person. Because that's what we're talking about in a conversation. When I'm talking about you, I'm talking directly to you. I'm talking about yours. What is yours? I'm talking to yours. When the Most High says, I am your Elohim, okay, or your Elohecha, okay? So it has to do with possession, it has to do with ownership. When we're talking about them is a third person. And them, if you can hear just them and there, you know automatically that when you're talking about them or their, is that singular or plural?
Plural.
That's plural. Okay. That's plural. Okay. Hem. Okay. So this right here lets me know that it's masculine. This one here tells me that it's feminine. Because the masculine is the mem. You can always remember that. And the feminine is the noon. So here again, mem lets you know it's masculine. Noon, feminine. This letter right here tells you the third person. This right here tells you a third person. So you're talking about them. Or you want to give it to their, family or whatever. Okay. Then we have us. Or our. He says that he's our Elohim. So he's Eloheinu. Okay. Eloheinu. And so we know that this is going to be on, these are endings. So everything in yellow is an ending on a noun. Okay. So Eloheinu means that he is our Elohim. Okay. When he's talking to, and I'll put up a word here, a lamed, a noon, and a wa. That don't look like a wa. Oh, I keep wanting to make it look a little longer. What did I just say right here? Lanu. La? To us, absolutely. To us. Eloheinu. Our Elohim. Okay. Malkeinu. Malke is a king. What did I just say? Malkeinu.
Our King.
Our king. See, so you can hear it depending on how it's being used. It could be our or to us, depending if you have a preposition in front of it. If I say menu, menu.
From us?
From us. Thank you. Banu.
In us.
In us or with us, depending on the context. Great job, everyone. So you can see it could be us or our, depending on how it's being used. Okay. If there's a preposition in front of it, it's going to more likely be us. It's not going to be to our, it's going to be to us. All right. So here is the third person going right here for the feminine. It could be a third person feminine or it could be a third person feminine it. Because her could be a person, but it can be a horse. Like Lucas said, it could be Susa. Okay. So these are the endings that go on those words. Okay. So you ask yourself, okay, what's the difference? Why is one ah and the other one's pa and the other one is na, right? When I first learned this, I was like, okay, well, what's this dot? What does this dot in here mean? And why is this over here on this side? When you see a dot inside of a hey, it means ownership. It's possessive. Okay. So you might see that describing, and guess what? This cannot be applied to anything masculine. It can only be on a masculine noun. because we're talking about nouns. That's what's in yellow here. So when I send this over to you, remember the yellow has to do with the nouns. Okay. Not verbs. Okay. So, and then ha identifies it as being her or it, and so is na, depending on the text. Like they got words that are called, they use na in a third person. So I haven't figured out why they're using na versus ha. I haven't figured that out yet. So it just tells you that your teacher don't even know sometimes. Some things you just don't, it's hard to figure out sometimes, especially when you're self-taught. So the him, the his, and the it are all third person. And again, the him could be a person, the his can be a person, the it can be a masculine thing. Because both nouns come back, both masculine and feminine. They're not just, remember, the Hebrew language is a living language. So you might have some things that are considered feminine. Okay. So one of the things that is a feminine that I know for sure is the Torah. I know that's a feminine. Okay. I know. Okay. They got something that's, let me see when I think about something that's masculine. That's a noun. Well, it's a lot of things that could be a noun. It could be a sus. It could be, whatever. They got male and female. So this is living, right? So there's always that respect is given to both sides. Okay. Now, if the male is the one in the group, he dominates because he's the dominant one. But his endings can be like you see right here. New. That right there means him. Okay. That's from him. So what's the difference between this new and this new? They both say new, but why is this one with a dot in it? Think about this one right here that I told you about.
Possessive.
Possessive, it belongs to it or him. Okay. So when you see this, because a lot of people read some Hebrew words and they're like, this goes to us. This is us. And you're like, no, it's not. It has this dot in it. It means him or it or his. Okay. So you got to remember that. And it has to do with a new. All right. Who means him? That means him. Okay. U on the end is him. Okay, so those are all the different ones you'll see that means him, his, or it, depending on what context it's in. Okay. So the same lanu that was up here can be the same lanu right here, but now you got a dot in here. So what does this lanu mean?
To us.
To us. What does this lanu right here mean?
No.
To him.
To him. Okay, good job. Okay, so you can see that they sound exactly the same. Lanu. Okay, so you have to be able to look at it and be able to tell, oh, that one right there is possessive. That goes to him. So one place I know for certain it is, and I'll show it to you after the class, it's in Genesis, where people have mistranslated and said that, and the English translators, they said, oh, now the man has become like one of us. He's become like one of us. Make sure you don't let me forget to tell you, or let's go there, okay? So I want to show that to you. And remember, it's about lanu, or the new part, okay? When you look at the red one, in a red category, you see I will. For those who've been in the Hebrew class, tell me, is this future?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, it is. Because it means I will do something. He will. We will. They will. You will. She will. You will. They got all these you wills and I wills and he wills. So we know, remember I said one of the things that I used to do that kind of got me in trouble was I would just want to take the aleph and said I. I would just go here and say, oh, that means I. No, it means I will because it's placed right in front of the whatever the 3-letter root is. That's shamar. What did I just say?
Sure.
Yeah, just forget about the vowels. Just what is it?
I will guard.
I will guard. Perfect. Okay, I will. Is that so? If it's in the future tense, is it perfect or imperfect?
Perfect.
Perfect.
It's imperfect because it hasn't been done yet. You understand? If it was perfect, it would be in the past. The past is perfect. The future is imperfect. Oh boy, did you catch that? The past is perfect. It's complete. Just let it talk to us. Let this resonate. The past is perfect. It's complete. So what does it mean? It means that you really shouldn't be looking at nothing in the past to try to change nothing. It's already done. What we want to look at is the future. Okay. And then whatever we do in our future, it then moves from being imperfect to perfect. So if we fix it in the future, we don't have to worry about going back and trying to change the past. Do you understand? If we change that in the future, we don't ever have to go back and try to worry about changing the past because you made it, it's already perfect. So what he's saying is do it the right way the first time. So when you look at it, when the Most High created everything, he looked back at it and he said, it's good. Everything I did was good. You see? Why? Because he did it the right way the first time, because he's Yahweh. And that's what he's looking for his people to do, is start thinking, let me do that which is perfect. Let me do the imperfect in the future and I can change the past. Not by going back to it. I can change the past by changing the future. That's powerful. Did you hear what I just said? I can change my past by going back and changing what's in the future. I can make a different response. Okay. Now you guys hear me teaching. So we will. Okay. Here you go. What did I just say?
We will eat.
Thank you. Got a question for you. Is this an would you put a one of these letters on a noun? Or would you put it on a verb? A verb. You can't do this to a noun. You can only do an action. You doing something is an action. So an action is a verb. So you can only do actions or verbs on, you can only perform them. You can't go and try to change a noun. You can't, I will a noun. You can't do a noun like that. You can only do a verb in action. See? So actions have to do with the past, the present, and the future. That's why we had to master our verbs. And that's what I'm trying to teach you, how we can master these things. You master them by understanding how those letters operate. Question: is this a PL or Nifal?
He was Nifal
Why do you think it's a Nifal?
because of the noon.
There you go. It is. Okay. It's a Nifal. Okay. It's a Nifal. And you would recognize it by this. Is that active or is it passive?
Passive.
Thank you. Passive. Somebody wants to get it. There it is. It's passive. So now you see that you're mastering these letters. You know, but I see a noon on front of something. First thing I think is, okay, well, is this a us or we thing, or is this a verb? You see, is this an action? You know what I mean? Because you can have a noon in front of na say, and that means we will. Okay, so how would you be able to determine whether it's we will or like the Most High said, let us create man in our image. It has a noon on front called na'aseh. So you'd have to know the root word to know, oh, this is we, or is it a nifel? If it's a nifel, or excuse me, a nifal, it's going to have a certain spelling, which I saw right here, ni, which is this noon right here, and this little dot under here, okay? Then the fall part, the ph, and then the lamet right here, look at me right in the Hebrew. Right here tells you that, hey, I might have I got a couple more letters that I have to deal with, right? So this is a fill. So then I would have whatever that root is. So what a pa'al is a root. That's what it is. This is what this is. It's a root. So when you see a PL or a nifal, okay, or a pa'al, which we're going to get into, by the way, then you would know, oh, that's a root. It's just telling you what's the stem of the root. Where's this root coming from? Is it a very simple root? Is it a forceful root? Is it an active root? Is it a passive root? Is it a causative root? Okay, so we're going to get into that. And I'm going to go in more depth in that, probably about another week or two. Okay, we're going to really dial in. And that'll pretty much take everything and put it all together for us. But this is good practice. Now you can see for they will. Question, masculine or feminine?
Masculine.
Masculine. How do you know?
Because of the ending "u," or yeah.
Well, when we look at up here, the yod is he.
Yes.
Okay. So anytime you see a yod, that's an indicator that you're talking about males. Okay. Because you do have some words that just have the wa on the end like that u sound just at the end, it means they. Okay. But that's past tense. This is future tense because we're adding these letters to the root. So when you look at these letters, right, these are all that's going to be added to the root. So let's just add a root. Let's add a verb. Okay. Let's add the, we can't have two alepphs. They won't let us do that. So what we'll do, well, you could, but what they do is they scratch one out and then put the O right here, and then they put the call. Okay. So I will eat. You can't eat. I will eat. Okay. You can say that, but it's just spelled O call. That little dot right there represents the aleph that's missing because you can't have two alephs next to each other. This one here is yakal, nakal. Okay. And then if I had that root, I would have to put that root in here, right here. Yeah, kalu. Okay. So what it is, it doesn't matter what the root is. You have to place it. Either the letters are going to go in front of the root. Okay. Just do something we can do. So shamar is our root. So that's eshmor. Okay. Then I would go here. That'd be yishmar. Okay. This would be what? Make the sound?
Nishmar.
Nishmar. Thank you. Then if I want to say they will guard, I would have to put the yod, the shin, the mem, the resh, and then the u on the end. Okay. And that would be what?
Yishmarnu.
Yishmaru. Yeah.
Maru.
Yishmaru. See?
Yeah.
So this here tells me that I'm talking about a group that have to do with male and I have to do with plural. I know that right there, just off of those two. So you can see when you add and you know your letters, you'd be like, oh, okay, I know what that is. I know it's they, right? Here, when we talk about you will or she will, this is sometimes going to get confusing because they're using it twice. They're using it for you will, meaning male. It could be used for both male and a female, but it's not using you for her, she as a second person because she is not a second person. You is a second person. Like I'm talking to you. I'm going to do this to you. You are going to do this. Okay. When I'm talking about she, I'm talking, she's not even or she could be standing there, but I'm talking about somebody else. So she's a third person. Okay. So third person, feminine, singular is used right here. Okay. She will. So the tav right there, and that's what could get a little tricky because you'll say, well, how do I know if it's a you masculine? Or how do I know it's she, third person feminine, singular? How would I know? Because it's both using the same letter. How would I know? How would you know? Your answer is always going to be in context. You'll know if it's talking about third person feminine singular because the noun has to match the what? Has to match the verb. You see? So you can't have somebody doing a noun that's doing the action, right? Which is the verb. This noun can't be masculine and the verb be feminine. The language is perfect. You can't do a masculine noun cannot be doing a feminine action. If it's feminine noun, it's going to be a feminine verb. If it's masculine noun, it's going to be a masculine verb doing the action. If the verb is, if the noun is plural, would you see that in the verb? Would the verb describe the action being done by a group?
Yes.
Yes, they have to match. Okay. If it's an adjective, the adjective has to match. The person, gender, and number always have to match. Okay. They always have to match, and that's what makes it perfect. All right. So that's something. So when you look at this, understand these are the things for future tense that you're going to add. So just put the root right here. Okay. That's where the root belongs. So if you know your roots, right, which is your vocabulary, once you master, this is what I'm sending this tool over here so you can master what these endings are. So master what the tav and the yod is. And I look at it, oh, that's feminine singular. Master that. Okay. Here, masculine plural, tav and a u. So it's like, it's close. You get confused, right? If you notice, this yod right here is on the end and it's talking about a feminine singular. It's not on the beginning, it's on the end. So the way that I remember is if you're talking about a male, like up here, it's going to be in the front. If you're talking about a female and it's on the end, after the top, I know it's talking about a female. Up here is a masculine, down here is a feminine. Because they'll reverse it, they'll put the yod at the end. Okay. So they might share tavs together. Okay, but if it's a yod on the end, oh, that's feminine. Right here, you will plural. That u right there tells me it's plural. This right here, the tav tells me that it's you. Because the first person is always going to be an aleph. The tav is always going to be a second person. The yod is going to be the third person. Okay. First person, second person, third person. That's how it works. Okay. And what is a noon in the beginning? A noon would be, the noon on the beginning of a word would be what? It'd be first person, common, plural. Because it's we or us. Okay. Up here, we will. Let us make man in our own image. We will do such and such. We will guard. Okay. And of course, here's our na that we were talking about earlier in the yellow, but they got a tav right here. So when I see that na, I'm like, oh, that's feminine. And it's at the end, it's plural. Why? Because they're adding two letters, 1, 2, to add. And what goes in the middle? What's the space for? Where's the space?
The root.
It's for the root. You see? So we're always going to get person, gender, and number. Person, okay? It'll tell you that gender and number. You can find your gender either in the yod at the front or the end. You can find your plurality, your singularity on the letters on the end or at the beginning. It'll all tell you that. So what we're always looking for is the person, the gender, and the number. Okay? When I say person, what am I talking about? Am I looking for Steve or Andy? Who am I looking for? I'm looking for first person, second person, third. That's it. When I'm talking about plural number, what am I talking about? Singular or what?
Plural.
Thank you. Okay. If I'm talking about gender, what am I talking about?
Masculine.
feminine, or common.
Common.
That's it. So I got first person, second person, third person. I got singular and plural. I got male or female or common. That's it. So I should be able to look at a word and tell which one it is based on these additions that they add on to the root. That's why they give you vocabulary and all this, because you're just supposed to know these things, right? You add these to the end. Now we got I here, but this ain't I will, like you got up in the red. So that's future tense. So what is the blue here?
Past.
Past tense. So if it's in the past, where does it go on the root? On the front, middle, or the end?
The end.
Thank you. Because when it's at the end, and here we go. So you got your root, right? That's your first box. Then you're going to take and you're going to put something on the front of it, or you're going to put something in the middle of it, or you're going to put something on the end of it. If it's on the end, it's in the past. It means it's perfect. It means that it's complete. It means that it's done. Okay. It's done. Dunsky. Come on, operate pen. It's done. If it's in the middle, it's in the middle. It means I'm in the middle of something. When you're in the middle of cooking, are you done? No, I'm in the middle of something, girl. I got to call you back. Hey, I'm in the middle of something to work. Hey, let me get back with you. That means right now in the present, I'm doing something. Now. See? Where you're in the front of something, you're in the future. It's in front of you. You're in the future. It's in the front. It's in the beginning of something. I'm in the beginning of it. Okay. So you would put something right here if you're going to add something to that root. Okay. So if I was going to do something out, I add the I to the root, and that's the I will in the future. If I was doing something in the middle, more than likely it's going to be a wa with this on it, or a wa with this on it, because I'm doing it right now. That's the letter that tells me that. If I'm in the past of something, I'm going to use any of these letters here in the blue. Okay. So let's ask ourselves the question, since we know that this is the past. Clear this out right quick. So I is the T. He is an empty box. Why?
Because it's perfect.
Oh boy. Right, because a 3-letter root that's complete, like I'd say Shamar, one of my favorites. Shamar, that's perfect. Okay, because it's he. It's the third person, third masculine singular. It's the third person because he is not the first person. When we're talking about he, we're talking about, hey, you know what he did? That's me and you and I are having a conversation, and we're talking about what he did. He's a third person masculine singular. When it's like this, the root is just 3 letters, it's perfect. It doesn't have to have anything added to the front of it because it's already implied that it's he. It's perfect. Now, if I wanted to change that to a feminine, of she, third person feminine, singular, I would just go right here and take her and add her to right here. And there you go. And it'd be Shamara. Okay. Shamara. I hope I'm saying that right. Shamara. Yeah. Shamara or Shamara. So that's all you would do. That's your 3-letter root. Masculine. He's already done. Perfect. I don't need to add anything. That's why it's an empty box. Now I wanted to say they guarded. I will put this right here. Okay. I want to say she guarded, put my root. My vowel right here on the bottom. There it is. Okay. If you know your root, once we start learning our roots, guess what? In these endings, you won't even need the dot right here. All you would see is the wa. When we learn what this is right here, and we accept it, all we see is this, you and I would automatically know that's feminine. Because we'll see that, hey, we don't have to see this. This is just here to kind of help us along the way, to tell us that, hey, you know what? That's feminine. That's a third person. Okay. So all of these are in the past. Perfect. Done. Completed. You guys have any questions? It's pretty easy, right? It's pretty cool. You just got to learn your pieces. So how I would do it is I would take and I would study and memorize these to music. Okay. All right. I would study this to music. And the reason why, because music lets things stay longer. Okay. But let me not forget to show you what these are down here. So you have the ta. That's the masculine and that's the feminine. That's the masculine and that's the feminine. Now, as I told you earlier, all these have to do with verbs. So when you see a verb, it's like shamar, you're going to have shamar ta. Then you would know, oh, wait a minute, this is past, but they're using the tav on the end here for this verb. You would never see our initial one. You would never see susta. You would never see susta. You would never see that, ever. You would never see this. You might see susai. You might see susakim. You might see susim. You might say susa, but you'll never see susta. You'll never see it. Okay. So they're using the tav. Okay. And they're using the tav in several areas and in several ways. And you just got to remember, and it's just a matter of practice. You'll see it. One thing that they have in common, though, is that the tav is still used for you, whether it's in the plural or whether it's in the masculine. Feminine singular, masculine singular, feminine plural, male plural. The letter tav is still being used. That's the dominant letter for you. And that's the same letter that you see that's being used for I up here, right here, I at the end. And all these here are endings. They're all suffixes. They're not prefixes. Up here, again, you see, it's trying to make sense of it. You see the tav is used here again. And what does it say? You. And the will part lets you know this in the future. It's right on the front. And so once you understand, well, I got a male you and I got a female you. I got a male you in the singular. I got a female you in a singular as well. I got a first person you, a second person you, and I got the only one that confuses us is this one. Is she will, because you don't understand it. Well, this is you. So why would that be she? It's because that's what they chose to be she. But how would you know? Context will tell you whether or not it's talking about she or talking about you. Okay, because she is the third person. All right. So you can see that they have that in common. So the tavs are used for your futures and for your past. And it depends if they're for your futures, your tavs are going to be in the front. If they're in your past, your tavs are going to be in the back. Doesn't that make sense? I wish somebody was able to teach me this, man. Your tavs are that they're in the future or in the front. It still means you. Your you and the past is right here in the back. That's all. See? That's all you got to remember. Future, front, past, in the back. Okay? And that's it. And if you notice, you don't see any other tops. You don't see any tops. You see coughs and men, haze here in the nouns and the verbs. You see Tavs. Okay. So in each one of these sections, they're giving you all the grammatical tools that you'll ever use. You'll never use anything else. It's all right here. And once you master this, and then check this out. If you want to verify that it's right, go back and look at your lessons, but also to go on Bible Hub and start looking for these things and watch what happens. You're going to be like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that Kim is. I know what that Ken is. I know what that is. And then you look to the left and you be like, oh, there it is. That verb has to match that noun. That noun is feminine singular. So guess what? That verb has to be feminine singular. It's feminine plural, got to be feminine plural. The adjective got to match. Okay. So this is the tool that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you guys enjoy it. And I just want to give a little explanation. So I just wouldn't hand it to you and be like, okay, well, what is this? Well, this is your tool. So memorize these things. Memorize it. You know, test yourself. Matter of fact, in final closing, what I want you to do is when you sit down, I want you to write it out. Well, David, I didn't take a Hebrew writing class. Okay. What I want you to do is try to write it. Just try to write it. Just try to go through it and see how it looks. Okay. That's it. Just write it down and just write it over and over. And then when you write it, see, I got my little writing style. I might just go down like this and then come across and do this. And I'll put the dot in there and I'll put the little yod right there. Okay. I'll just practice it. So, and then you write it down and then right next to it, I. That's all you do. Because what we do is you read and you write, but writing is a great way for you to memorize stuff. If you don't write something down, it's like it doesn't exist. That's the reason why we're able to use these tools, and they're good because when it's written, it stays longer. I think that's the reason why the Most High used language for us, not only just to talk to us, but also for us to be able to communicate through writing. So once you communicate through writing, you'll be able to, it'll stay longer. It'll stick with you a little bit longer. Any questions? Oh yeah, that's right. On oneself, why is myth and not mitu or mit?
Mita versus mite.
Oh, mite, why is it not that? I don't, well, I know that the past tense, they just switched the letter. They just went from the hith fael, which we're going to get into later, to just to put in a mem to let us know that it's a present tense. I don't know why the mitu or the mite, I don't know. That's just what it is myth, like hith, myth. But there's no change in its actual meaning except for its tense that it's in. Is it in the past, present, or future? And so because it's in the middle, right, they use myth because it's in the present. If it's in the future tense, then they would add a letter like a yod, or they might add, you know, some other letter, a noon. They can add that. It could be nith. It could be yith. It could be myth. It could be nith. It could be tith. It can be tith.
It was just the hey that was throwing me off where the is coming from.
Where
Yeah.
the hith is coming from? Oh, it's coming from its original hith pael. It's coming from the hith. The original one's hith pael. And I think that hey right there is dealing with its causation, meaning like it's one is doing something to themselves, so they're causing themselves to do something, because the letter hey is associated with causation. So because it's on oneself, like I'm just share this with you one more time. When it's like on oneself, where is it at? Here you go. If you notice that the information that they give out here is causing, because remember, action is you doing something, right? So it's causing himself to wear clothes. It's just the way, I know it's weird how they're, you know, framing it, but causing. How do you mean I'm causing something? I'm causing something. to be done on oneself. Okay. And that's what the hith pael is too. It's one causing one to do something because it's both active and passive at the same time. So you're causing this to happen on oneself. No one else is causing you to do it. You're doing it. So this letter right here, that mem, represents present tense. And it's on oneself. The hith, right, is on oneself, but it's in the past. Okay. Then they have one called the yith. The yith pael. Okay. This says that he is doing something on himself in the future. Okay. So they got the past, present, and future. All right, you guys, I'm going to send this over to you. We only have 2 lessons left. I think the one that just spells out the PL, PUL, and all that will answer all of our questions next week is going to be a complete summary of everything that we've learned up to this point. So it's going to be pretty in depth. We're going to go over everything that we learned in the whole entire book. And then after that, we're going to go over the PUL, the PL, the NIFAL, the NIFAL, the HIFL, all that, the MITHAL, all of it. We're going to go over all of it. And then we'll be ready to move on to our grammatical structure. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, great tool.
Hey, great tool, right? That's
Mhm.
going to help. And guess what? And once you see it, you'll be like, okay, I got it. I know what it is now. And you're not intimidated because it's what you understand is just nothing but pieces. That's all this is. Just